gonna help you now, crazy. You'll die if you try.
Just when you thought this series was gonna slow down before the last few episodes, they come back with even more heat, more history and lore, and some great writing surrounding the character Ingrid Kersh. Welcome to Real Enigmas and Theories. No need for a long recap. Let's just get right into the vibes. This video will contain spoilers for It Welcome to DERRY Season 1 all the way up to Episode 6. So without further ado, let's cook. So we started this episode off with another flashback scene, and this time it's of Miss Kersh. Last time it was of Francis and Rose meeting at 12 years old in 1908. This time we're dealing with the younger Miss Kersh back in 1935 at her job as housekeeper at Juniper Hill Asylum. It seems like this is her way to connect with troubled youth there so she can see if she can use their trauma to see Pennywise. 1935 is the same year of the Bradley Gang Massacre, and the way all of these pieces come together for the reveal of Periwinkle is brilliant. And realizing that she and Francis were also in the same space and time at the 1908 Circus is heavy. We're getting so many answers, but also so many questions. So let's get this straight. Ingrid has been wanting to see the clown since 1935, or maybe even 1908, but we're gonna stick to 1935 since that's where they started us out, and it seems like this was the first child that she had encountered that saw the clown. So this would be 27 years prior to 1962. She said her father was taken away from her, which would have been 27 years before 1935. So this is her back in 1908 with no sign of Pennywise the dancing clown. And like I said in episode 3, this is why you see her with similar face markings. So you have to ask yourself, why would she expect to see her father as a clown 54 years later? Why would she even consider that possibility? And then double back and ask yourself, why would the Galoo choose this form of the dancing clown? Now, I said this early in the game that I believe the traveling circus made a deal with the Galoo in the Western Woods. Remember, Bob Gray wasn't from Derry and neither was Ingrid. She landed there by way of the circus and ended up staying after the Derry Circus tragedy. Now, the town of Derry is located in the woods, or those Western woods, and the residents are spiritually lobotomized by the discharge in the water. Because now that we know that aspect of the show and what it actually is doing in Derry by leaving discharge in the water, it makes me remember how the natives were selling water on the side of the road. My question is, were they selling fresh water or were they selling water with the Galoo's discharge in it? Ingrid is tied directly to at least 2 locations where the last catastrophes happened, maybe 3, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, when we see that circus, and no disrespect, but I don't believe what the creators are saying when they say that the Skelly Man was a regular person who just put some fear into Francis. I don't believe that, because I see his bones morphing and his body changing. Maybe what they're saying is a bit of misdirection for future seasons that actually reveal that this circus may have made a deal with the Galoo. Just follow me for a second. That circus to me is like the true knot from Dr. Sleep. I believe that there are some humans that have possibly made deals with the Galoo as well, and we get a little bit of evidence of that in this episode. Now let's think about it. The Galoo feeds off fear, or uses the fear to prepare the sacrifice. With the Galoo's powers, it can tap into these fears and exploit them to release certain chemicals and a certain set of hormones. Humans can't do that. So the true knot has to do this by inducing those fears with torture, and then they extract the steam when those chemicals are released into the blood. And their prime target is children with shining abilities. So that would mean steam is actually shining ability. Hey yo, peep how they inserted a subliminal steam in this shot right here. And I promise we're gonna talk about this steam a little bit later. I'm not getting sidetracked here. I say all that to say that deals can be made with the Galoo. And that takes us right back to Ingrid. It's obvious that some type of deal was made if we see her open the door when the Galoo or Pennywise got that little girl in the basement, and we see Ingrid still alive in 1962. Why didn't he kill her down in the basement as well? Was there some sort of deal made? Because I'm sure that that's not really her father, so why did it keep her alive? We know that it takes an older Mrs. Kersh as one of its forms that's revealed to Beverly. And that makes me ask the question, why would Miss Kersh show up to Beverly? It kind of makes me wonder if Lily is the mother of Beverly, because why would it use Miss Kersh to pull up on Beverly? And I mean, we know that Beverly and Lily are the only two that we know of that seen Miss Kersh's photo album. Now, we know that what Beverly was looking at in the 2019 Part 2 It film wasn't real. We know that that was a fabrication of it, and Miss Kersh wasn't real, or any of that wasn't real. She was actually inside an abandoned building. So could Beverly looking at the fabricated photos in Miss Kersh's apartment be mirroring Lily looking at the actual Miss Kersh's photo album? I don't know. Because when you think about it, Lily and Ingrid also mirror with the loss of a father. And I think that Ingrid was purposely trying to cause the loss of Ronnie's father. I think that she's the one who made that anonymous report of seeing Hank outside of her house in the bushes, and she possibly planted that cigarette pack too. She followed the children in the graveyard and showed up outside the Hanlon's house and didn't even bother to hide her car. Look, that's her whip right there. And I think she also made that report to the police about Hank being at the black spot. And all of those aspects of this were connected to one person, and that's Bowers. Bowers is who reveals the cigarette pack to Hank. He's also the one who ignored the clown in the picture and tried to act like it was a statue. He also just happens to get the information of where Hank is just before leaving his post as chief. Then he goes right to the place where Ingrid's husband is at the bar with the lynch mob, and he sends them after Hank. I don't know. You know, Ingrid is a little bit loose over there. She might be messing around with Bowers too on the low. I actually think now, when I think back and look at the episode where they went to the police station, I kind of think that Bowers knew about that clown and who that clown was in that picture. Now let's check out Ingrid's photo album for a second. This dude right here looks like Bowers. And this picture is before she got married to her husband. And we know that because this is their 10th anniversary picture in 1953. So that would mean that they got married in 1943. Yo, look at her body language in this picture and how she's kind of like pulling away from dude. And we know that this guy right here on this weekend getaway picture is not her husband, because look at his hairline. It looks like Bowers. I bet that Bowers knew Ingrid when she was growing up after being left in DERRY, and he probably knew about that clown suit too. Ingrid was traveling with her father from another place and stayed in DERRY after something happened to her father. And I wonder who raised her and where she grew up. And she probably grew up with Bowers. I mean, even think about it. In 1935, before he was the chief, he probably was a cop who was there at the Juniper Hill when that girl Mabel went missing in the basement. And I think that Ingrid knew all along that it was coming back soon. And what Lily was seeing was a sign that he was coming back. And that's why she encouraged Lily to keep searching for the truth, even though she had key information where she knew that Hank wasn't the one who killed them kids. So she's encouraging Lily to lure out Pennywise so she can pass off another offering to the entity that bears resemblance to her father. The writing around this whole situation is heavier than the actual Galoo story, and I'm waiting to find out why it uses the Pennywise form and what happened to Bob Gray. Did he kill him, consume him, or make a deal with him? What actually happened? Because I know after that circus, all of a sudden the Galoo wants to use this as his prime form. I mean, just look at how Ingrid has been pulling the strings in the background and how these events are leading up to that one last catastrophe before the 27-year gap. Kind of makes me wonder if she played a role in the Bradley gang massacre as well. We do know that Pennywise was there, and that shootout with the Bradley gang had to happen right after the little girl went missing in the basement at Juniper Hill. And if that is Bowers in the photo album, and seeing that her husband is in the lynch mob or down with the lynch mob, he even brings up a couple more families that might want to help them lynch. They could have been a part of that shootout with the Bradley gang. So boom, she's tied to the circus and the tragedy that happened there. She's likely who told that Hank was at the black spot, and she's directly connected to a missing child during 1935 in the feeding cycle where the Bradley gang massacre happened. There's so many more questions. I don't think we'll get all the answers in the last 2 episodes, but the Ingrid story is definitely heating up. Now, let's get back to that steam. Now, when Halloran and his buddies were at the bar, Halloran says that he knew a place to blow off some steam and get some shine or moonshine. It's never revealed where he took them or where they got the moonshine from. I remember some people in the comments were saying that they thought Hank Grogan was making the moonshine and that he was trying to keep that operation secret when, they thought he was somewhere else. I remember other people in the comment section were saying that they think that he took them to the black spot to get the moonshine and everything. But we know now that neither one of those were the case. Hank was over there with Ingrid, and the black spot wasn't even created yet. So where did they go? Now, check this out. I know it's a stretch, but I'm going to say it anyway. What if Halloran blowing off some steam and getting some shine was actually him using his shine abilities to enter the mind into the soldiers and make them think that they were somewhere else just for fun or just practicing out his abilities? I mean, like I said, that's a stretch, but where did he take them? Because think about it. If there was a place that he took them that day, then why did they even need the black spot? The black spot isn't on base either. I mean, what was even the point of making the black spot if you had a place to take the people already and get moonshine and everything? The problem was that they needed somewhere to hang out because the hangout spot at the base was just raggedy tent. But Halloran had already taken the guys to another place to get some moonshine. They came back singing and drunk. And Halloran doesn't really seem like he gives 2 shits about anything. I mean, look at this smile that he did right here when he was with Tanya. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe Halloran did something to make those guys think they were drunk and, blow off some steam, which we know steam is shining abilities. And he also brought up moonshine, which is shining ability. Anyway, that's just the theory. Now, seeing them getting everything together at the black spot reminded me of the juke joint from Sinners. Even in the movie Sinners, the juke joint goes up in flames too. And before the Smoke and Stack twins got that building, it was a lynching place. Now here we are getting the tragic burning of the black spot, and we can definitely see the trend throughout the It lore. You have Hank Grogan's gonna fry, Mike's parents were burning, Will's vision of his father burning, and he says you'll burn too. And I think King is actually casting a mirror on the lynchings and burning trends that exploded after the Civil War in real-world America. Lynchings and burnings were a calculated system of racial control used to maintain white dominance after the Civil War. As American Negroes gained political voting rights, land, economical mobility, mobs, sheriffs, and local officials used terror to keep those rights from taking hold. Public lynchings function as a community purification ritual designed to send a message that any attempt by a Negro citizen to vote, organize, buy land, or challenge the racial hierarchy would be met with deadly force. Now, these acts were often celebrated, photographed, and turned into postcards because the violence itself was meant to be remembered and passed down, also internalized as a warning to every so-called black person living in that county. And the fact that that happened is more terrifying than anything Stephen King could ever imagine. Burning victims added another layer of psychological warfare and alchemy to the mix, with fire symbolizing purification and erasure. They made human life into a public spectacle meant to eliminate not only the body, but the legacy and the spirit of the offspring. In many cases, burnings coincided with false accusations or fabricated claims to justify taking a black family's land, business, or their crops. The mob's ritualistic use of torture and fire mirrored the old European execution traditions for the heretics, and that symbolism carried on into the American South as a tool to suppress any form of Negro independence. All of these incidences followed a repeated pattern where you had accusation, rumor, the mob gathering around, the sheriff's cooperation, the public display, and just like what we see happening here in DERRY, you got the councilmen, you got Bowers, you have all of the same elements of what we saw back in the South. Even this dude right here looks like the congressman from the bar, and this might be Bowers himself as the leader. And if that is Bowers, I'm not surprised one bit, because like I told you before, that whole Bowers bloodline is trash. Now, this takes us right back to the very first scene of the entire series. You remember it? It was the Music Man clip with Harold Hill. Now, I spoke a lot about this in my episode 1 breakdown. In Harold's Trouble in River City speech, Hill describes exactly what we see at the Black Spot itself. He talks about underage smoking and drinking, jungle music, pool tables, and dirty dancing. And that speech was used to create a suggestive problem so he could sell the solution with a boys' marching band. And the fact that Richie was in the marching band and he played the drums at the Black Spot makes that connection solid. I mean, they actually made a point to show us that Richie played the drums early on in the show while the Music Man was still fresh in the mind. And here we see the children drinking alcohol or spirits. We got Richie sitting on the pool table, playing jungle music, all the things that Harold Hill expressed in his speech. Now add that to the mob mentality. Even the wanted posters mirror Harold Hill's posters in The Music Man. His love interest was a librarian, and we see the Masteria mob gathering at the DERRY library. Yo, this shit turned into a dark version of The Music Man real quick. And it's so crazy and ironic that that movie actually dropped in 1962. And that type of mob mentality is exactly what we see happening in DERRY. Right away, when I saw the Trouble in River City speech at the beginning of this series, I knew exactly what they were talking about, and I talked about it in my first video. Go check it out. So let's talk about these kids. Now, something is definitely changing in Lily. Aside from getting left behind in the sewers and coming face to face with Pennywise's teeth, she found the dagger, and her attitudes towards her friends is definitely changing. I mean, they did kind of leave her in the sewer, but I think something else is happening. She shows her friends the daggers and tells them about how it scared the Galoo, but she didn't let them touch it. She's also taking it everywhere. She won't let it leave her side. She ended up cutting Miss Kersh's hand with it, and it makes me kind of wonder what is actually going on with her in that shard. I did notice it lighting up in her classroom, and we know that the thing lights up when it's in the presence of the Galoo. So this means that Pennywise wasn't just messing around in Lily's mind. He was actually there at the school in proximity of the shard for it to be reacting that way. And this is real dope because it gives us a little bit more information about Pennywise. Pennywise actually is pulling up on these kids. It's interesting to know that when someone sees one of his forms, they're actually there. Like, he's actually there. He's not just sitting in the sewers channeling some remote thoughts. But you know, I gotta keep it a beanbag. I do realize that there's an evil clown and the adults don't listen, but these kids are actually finding themselves in sticky situations due to their own decision making. Ronnie stole her father's keys to take some kids to see the Music Man when she could have just told them where the words that were being heard in the pipes came from. She could have just told them, hey, that's the song from the Music Man. She didn't have to take them all the way to the movie theater to see that. Had she not done that, that first batch of kids would probably still be here. And I mean, little Susie ain't even have nothing to do with it. And the next thing, Lily had that damn arm, and that could have given her some leverage in telling the cops that it wasn't Hank. I mean, at this point, I know that arm is somewhere stinking and rotten and decayed and all of that. But man, where is the arm? Because that could have helped a lot of this situation. It's too far gone now, but they could have done something early in the game with that arm. I don't know. Here's the third one. This is a hard one. Russo died as a result of Will and his friends popping chlorpromazine to go find a monster in the sewers. There's no way around that. Had that not happened, Russo would probably still be alive. Maybe he would have died from something else. Maybe something else would have happened. But truth of the matter is, he died saving young Will. And I know bro's name is Leroy, but he turned into Bruce Leroy when he slapped Will like he was show enough. I thought Will's lips was about to run to the infirmary and leave him there. Leroy knew he took it too far. He should have actually reminded Will that it was him being down there is the reason why his friend Russo got shot. And then he should have said, put some respect on the man's name who saved your life. I think that would have hit him harder than that slap. I think Will should have trusted his father the way his father trusted him at the lake. When Will told his father that something was happening down there and everything, he believed him. He didn't brush him off. He embraced him. He noticed that he was hurt. He noticed that he was scared, and he didn't brush it off at all. And I think that that is what enabled him to take notice to the red balloon. Leroy took what Will said down there at the lake very seriously, and I think that that was something that they had to work with. It's always in these shows how like one person has this information, the other person has this information, somebody else has this information. They never come bring it together. You know what I'm saying? It does make the story good, but damn. Overall, this episode had the best writing thus far, and it gave us some real dope info on Periwinkle. More information is always good. Richie playing the drums at the Black Spot was dope as hell, and he had me rolling when he did this little head nod right here. And knowing that he is Richie's father from the Losers Club is making him my favorite character. The place coming together definitely had me thinking of the juke joint from Sinners. And then in the other episode, Stanley Kersh talking crazy to his wife about a damn steak. He better chill because her daddy Pennywise will straight up do him dirty. I wonder what's gonna happen with the kids inside the Black Spot while the lynch mob is right outside. I hope Halloran uses his powers to help save some people, but we know it gets bad for most of the people in the building. Richie and Margie getting tipsy at the Black Spot was not on my bingo card for this show, but hell, they was already out there popping pills, so why not? Anyway, if you want to see my channel grow, tap that like, hit that hype, share, hop in the comments to drop some thoughts, and if you're not subbed yet, hopefully this will be the video to make you do it. And since I brought Sinners up, yo, go check out my Sinners video. Over 1.7 million views so far. And here is my Welcome to Derry playlist. Go check that out. Until next week, peace.